we've had a huge amount of interest in the latest feature that we've added to Adaptable, our AG grid extension. And that's also raised quite a few questions. So I thought I would do a follow-up video where I kind of do a more step-by-step introduction to the feature, which is data import. It's all on our document site, as you can see here. And essentially, data import, as the name implies, allows you to import data at runtime into Adaptable. And we've got a series of 4 examples which we can run through one by one. And for each example, we've provided a sample JSON or CSV file to allow you to see for yourself how it works. So as background, when you import data, you can either copy and paste text or you can import a file, as we'll see. So the first thing we're going to do is look at a basic import. So let's download this. Let's take a look. And we can see here that we've updating 2 rows, one for React, one for Angular, and we've added a word new for license and some different values for GitHub watchers and GitHub stars. So let's now actually import that file. You can see that it does column matching. We'll come to that later. You can see the validation. We'll come to that later. And when I import, there we are, because we've got flashing cells, you can see the cells that have changed. So that's importing data that updates existing rows. And obviously you can also have a file that adds new rows. So let's take a look at that. Let's add this add frameworks JSON. Let's take a look at it. And you can see here that we're adding 2 new rows. One's called my framework, one is called your framework, and we give the values. So now when we import that file, add frameworks, and then we go import, we can see these 2 files here have been imported, and we added a row added alert, so we were able to kind of visually see what's been added. There we are, they're the 2 rows that have been added to the grid. And obviously there's nothing stopping you having a file that both adds and update rows at the same time, and Adaptable is clever enough to work out whether it's an existing row it should update or whether it's a new row that it should add. Now in both the JSON files we've seen so far, we've been very careful that the names of the column in the JSON or the CSV matches exactly the column ID. But sometimes that might not be the case. Sometimes you might have an Excel CSV file where the header is different to the name of the column in your AG grid column defs. And so how does that work? Well, for that, we have a thing called column matching. So let's do the same. Let's now download this file. Let's take a look at it. And here we can see that we've called language and license with a capital L when it should be a small l. And what was GitHub stars and GitHub watchers just says stars and watchers. In other words, the names of the columns in our file don't match that which are in the AG grid column defs. So now when we import this file, we'll see it says some fields do not have a corresponding column. And when we go into it, it says these are the columns that don't match, and therefore I'm able easily to match them. So language, GitHub stars, license, GitHub watchers. Now they all match. Now it allows me to import, and the data gets imported, same as in the first demo. Now sometimes you might want, and this is the final thing we'll look at, to validate the data. Let's imagine that you want to make sure there's certain rules that have to be kept. Now obviously, we still obviously have row change alerts. Row change alerts are alerts that fire after data's been changed to tell you if they meet certain requirements that you need to know about. But this is pre-validation. This essentially stops the runtime user from adding data which it shouldn't. It goes through a validate function. You can read about it, but essentially we're going to do that now. So we are going to add this file, but the difference is we've now got a new rule. So let's add this file again, and we'll see that here we have a rule. We have a license is new, okay, and what What does that mean in practice? Well, what that means is, if we have a look at our code, we've said here that the license has to be either MIT license or other. It can't be new. So what does that mean in practice? It means that when I now import my file, I get an error to say there are errors in the data. The column matching is fine, but we can see it says, hold on, both of these are wrong. And if I have a look here, I can see it says it must be MIT license or other. And now if we fix that, so we make that other, that's now gone green. And if we fix this one, that's also gone green. Now the import button is enabled. And when I click it, bomph, the 2 rows have been updated. And in fact, because this was already MIT license, that cell wasn't updated because obviously we ended up swapping like for like, so there was no need to update it. So there we are. That's an introduction to the data import function. There's a lot of other things which we will talk about in a future video for some more hard cases, edge cases, advanced requirements, but hopefully this helps you understand how you're able to update existing rows, add new rows, do column matching where required, and perhaps most importantly, validate the data that is being entered into your grid to make sure it matches your business rules and your requirements. As always, thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about Adaptable, please get in touch and we'll be delighted to give you either a one-to-one demo or indeed a free, no obligation trial license so you can try out Adaptable for yourself.